Hello everyone, this is Chantal from Gluten-Free Cooking123.com, and today I'm going to show you how to make gluten-free sourdough bread. So today I have Elizabeth with me and she's going to help me make the bread. Right, Elizabeth?
Uh-huh.
And right here we have our fed sourdough, and we fed it about a couple hours ago, and right now it's good and bubbly. Let me show you. As you can see, these are the bubbles. So that's how you want your sourdough to be. And I have a video on how to do this. I also have a blog on how to make your own sourdough starter. So we are going to start making the bread right now.
The first thing you need is a pot to put everything in.
We are going to use our KitchenAid because I like to mix my bread on high for 10 minutes, just like I do for the wheat sourdough bread, because I find that it helps it to rise better. Okay, so the first thing we need is golden flaxseed powder. We're going to need 2 tablespoons of golden flaxseed powder.
This is what it turned out. I had to do it over the
That's
bag.
okay, that's good. You can put it in there, and Serenity decided to join us.
What a cute little baby.
How much did you put so far?
Just one.
Okay, you need 2. You know what I like to do? Let me show you. I take it and scrape it up against the bag,
Ah.
so it levels it for me.
Okay.
And we need 3 tablespoons of water to activate the flaxseed powder. Try to pour in 3
This?
tablespoons. Yep, and this. So take it over here.
So this is 3 tablespoons?
No, that's 1 tablespoon. You need 3 of that.
1. Oops.
Make sure it's full. Make sure it's full, Mom.
3.
Bless you.
Bless you. Cute sneeze.
Okay, good job. Now take the bowl and swish it around. Put the spoon down. Take the bowl and swish it around a little bit.
This?
Yeah, so that they would get mixed in together. A little more.
Oh my god.
Can I do it for you?
Okay.
Watch out. I don't think you put enough water in there. How many spoons did you put?
3.
It doesn't look like you put enough.
Oh my goodness.
So the flaxseed powder and the water act as a binder instead of an egg. I tried this recipe with an egg before and I did not like it. I found that it makes it kind of more sticky and denser and even heavier. So I decided to try to substitute the egg with flaxseed powder because it still needed that binder, and it worked. I find that it works the best. It also adds a great earthy flavor to the dish. When I say earthy, I don't mean like dirt. That's not what I'm talking about. But it has this unique flavor to it that's really delicious. What's wrong, Habibti? Are you hungry? What? Yeah. Okay, now we are going to add the rice flour. You can look at my recipe and follow it. Okay, so we need 2 1/4 cups of brown rice flour. Okay, so open up the bag.
This flour doesn't exactly look brown, Mama.
Make sure to tap the flour first and then scrape it. Not like that. Put the knife straight in it. Sorry, that's fine. So you need 2 1/4 cups.
Is this 2 cups or?
That's 1 cup. No, Mama, you need to fill it all the way, otherwise the bread won't come out right.
What's always left, right?
Okay, that's good. Good job.
I want to see. It's 2 cups. Now we only need 1/4 cup.
Okay, great. Now close the bag. We need 2 teaspoons of salt. So go ahead, open up the salt and put 2 teaspoons there. We're putting our dry ingredients in first.
1, 2.
There you go. Good job. Okay, now close this container. Okay, now we need 2 teaspoons of xanthan gum.
2 teaspoons. Oh, it already leveled itself out.
Mm-hmm.
2?
Yep.
Oops. Wow.
No, you need,
I know.
you need it full.
That's amazing. I never knew xanthan gum floated quickly.
Take some out. Make sure it goes in the bag, not outside the bag. No.
Sorry.
That's alright. Okay. Close it and put it on the table over there, please. We need 3 tablespoons of brown sugar. And Elizabeth is going to do that. Pack them up. No, tablespoons, Mama. That's a teaspoon.
So baby, it's so cute.
That's good. That's good. Just put it in. Hey.
What did
Close
you
the brown
do?
sugar.
Hey. Wait, I go have another lump. I have a lump and a treat, Mama. So it makes sense for her to have a lump. I made a little twisty.
We need a tablespoon of sesame seeds.
What?
Normally, I would have added also half a tablespoon of poppy seeds, but we don't have any, so we're gonna skip that. Hey, Elizabeth. And these are just for flavors. You can add whatever flavor that you want. And if you don't like sesame seeds, you don't have to add them. If you don't like poppy seeds, whoop, you don't have to add them either. You could even add seasoning like onion powder and garlic powder, or whatever you like. So now we are going to add our wet ingredients. And for the wet ingredients, the first thing we're going to add is our sourdough starter. So we need 1 cup of sourdough starter. Okay, Elizabeth, you are going to add a cup of sourdough starter. So take this and scoop it into here. Just make sure you don't spill. Okay? Make sure not to spill.
This is so
Okay,
good.
grab more. Stop and grab more. Don't wait for it to drip. This will take forever. Grab more.
This is so good. Ah.
Okay, that's enough. Alright. We need 2 tablespoons of olive oil, so just grab it from there.
Oh no. Sorry, Mama.
It's alright.
1.
Make sure it's full.
It is full.
I can get a little more full. You can pour it into it over the bowl.
Bowl? That's a bowl?
That's not what I meant. I'm going to put a little more.
I thought that was a pot. Wait, aren't bowls just for pots?
We also need 1 1/4 cup of water. So fill that cup with water. Where are you going, baby?
This cup?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oops.
Whoa.
Did you spill?
Yes.
How much?
Only a tiny bit. Much.
Try not to spill it. There you go.
This is my high speed.
Now take the bowl and attach it to the KitchenAid.
How? Like that or like this?
Yeah, facing you. Yeah, like that. And see those 2 holes?
Yeah.
Each of them has to go in one of the pivots that are on the KitchenAid.
Well, which 2 holes?
Yeah, one there and the other on the other side. See those 2 pivots on the KitchenAid, the silver ones?
Like that?
Yeah. The silver pivots, see them?
Yeah, I see.
Yeah. Put 1 in each hole.
Okay.
There you go. And push the top down. No. No, not like that, Mama. So put your hands on the top and push it down. Be careful. If you're on a chair, it's going to be easier.
You know, whenever I can't do it.
We're having technical difficulties, so I have to put the baby down. I'm going to push this down. Okay, and we're going to put the paddle attachment. And we are going to let the KitchenAid run on high for 10 minutes. So we let it run for 10 minutes, and now we are going to take it out and put it in our loaf pan. But before we put it in our loaf pan, we are going to butter this so that it doesn't stick to the loaf pan. You can see the texture of this bread over here. It's not too thick and it's not too soft also. It's soft enough so that the gluten-free bread can rise, and it's thick enough also so that it can rise, so that it can hold the bubbles. And normally so this time I didn't add baking soda. I never have added baking soda, but I've been thinking about adding baking soda to it and seeing what would happen. Maybe it would help it to rise better. It is rising really well with this recipe so far, but I still feel like it can rise a little more. So I'm trying to, it is a really good recipe, but I feel like I can still improve on it, and maybe adding the baking soda would help. But this time I just wanted to show you how it will be just as it is without adding anything to it. Maybe as I make improvements to it, I'll show you guys and let you see how it's going to develop. And this will not be the only bread recipe that I will have. I will be working on other bread recipes as well, because I want to create also gluten-free sourdough, gluten-free buns, and all sorts of stuff. So I'm going to butter this pan while Elizabeth plays with her sister and transfer the dough, the batter, into this loaf pan. Not there, I mean like at the top. We want it to be flat and let it rise on its own. Okay, so this is what we do, like that. I kind of tap it down, and sometimes I take the spatula and I bounce it up and down, like so, just to create an even layer at the surface of the bread. Even though right now it looks like it's a small loaf, it's going to rise up to the top of this pan. This looks good. We are going to cover it with some plastic wrap and let it rest for as long as it takes for it to rise to the surface. Now we are going to cover it with some plastic wrap. I like to have it extra big just in case if it starts touching the plastic wrap. I kind of raise it up a little bit, lift it, and then this way it has a lot of room for it to rise. And I just put it over here on the counter or at the edge of the stove so that it's away from cold drafts and it's able to rise as quickly as possible. You can also store it overnight in the fridge or for several days and let it ferment slowly, and then bake it when you take it out of the fridge and let it rise completely, and then bake it the day that you are ready to bake it. It also adds a lot of flavor that way because of the sourdough and the fermentation process. And of course, the longer it is fermented, the healthier it is for you. So right now we're just going to set it aside over here and let it do its thing. And several hours later, we are going to come back and bake it. And I'll show you guys how to do that as well. Okay, so it's the next day, and obviously I did not bake the bread the first day because it had to rise and it was going to take a long time for it to rise, and I didn't want to be baking bread at 12 o'clock at night. So I decided to bake it the next day instead. And it has been rising since 9 o'clock in the morning, and right now it is 9:20 at night. So basically it took the whole day, 12 hours. I took it out of the fridge and I set it out on the counter and I let it rise. And also a couple hours ago I put it in the oven to proof on the proof setting. I didn't have to do that, but I just wanted to speed it up a little bit so that I could bake it before I go to bed, because I didn't want to do it again the next day. So right now I'm going to show you what it looks like first. Oh, and it smells amazing. So it has risen almost all the way to the top, and it looks like sort of jiggly, that tells me that it has a lot of air bubbles in it. And I'm going to set it over here, and we are going to preheat our oven before we bake it. Right here I have this giant Dutch oven that I like to bake my bread in, and it creates this closed environment with steam in it. So what I do is I am going to preheat this with boiling water inside it. So it's going to steam the oven a little bit as well as preheat this thing. And the reason why I put the boiling water now is because before I used to put it after I preheat this, and the hot water would be splashing everywhere and it was kind of dangerous. So my husband suggested, why not put the boiling water in it and preheat it and then put the bread in it, instead of pouring hot boiling water into a hot pan and having steam and hot water splashing everywhere. So that was a very good suggestion. So that's what we're going to do right now. I boiled the water already, and we are going to just put a little bit at the bottom, about an inch of water, just enough to allow the bread to steam in the Dutch oven while it's baking for the first 60 minutes or 1 hour. So, and this bread takes long to bake. Gluten-free bread in general takes longer to bake than wheat bread. So right now I'm going to put this in the oven and have it preheat with the lid not on top of it but separate from it. I'm going to put the lid right next to it, and I'm going to preheat the oven to 450 degrees Fahrenheit. You want the oven to be super hot to bake the bread properly and have it create those excessive bubbles in it. The reason why we preheat the Dutch oven is so that it will be the same temperature as the oven, so that when we put the loaf pan in it, it is going to act like an oven. That's why it's called a Dutch oven. Now, if you don't have a Dutch oven, you don't have to do this. That's okay. And if you don't have a large Dutch oven like this, what you can do is put a sturdy pan at the bottom layer and filled with hot water, hot boiling water, and right when you put the you could do that actually before, so you can preheat it in the oven as well while the oven is preheating, and then you can put the loaf pan on the middle rack right over that pan that's filled with hot boiling water. The pan that's filled with water would be at the bottom rack, and the loaf pan would be at the middle rack. And if you notice that maybe your bread is getting a crust quickly, what you could do is maybe cover it with some aluminum foil a little bit, just to protect it. You don't have to enclose it. You want the steam to still be able to come in, because you don't want it to form a crust quickly, so that it can rise more. And also the steam help it to have this thick crust as well at the end. And you can also put a pan at the bottom of the loaf pan, so you could put this on a pan just to prevent the bottom from burning as well. So those are my suggestions. And another way you can do it, which I have done this before, is to put it directly in a Dutch, and if you have a small Dutch oven, you can put it directly in a small Dutch oven. What I like to do is to make my bread rise in parchment paper in like a circular form. I would put it in a bowl and put the parchment paper in the bowl, and then put my bread batter in the parchment paper. You can sprinkle a little bit of gluten-free flour in there if you want, just to give it this artisan look. And you cover. Did I say to preheat the Dutch oven first? That's what you need to do. Before you put the parchment paper in the Dutch oven, you need to preheat your Dutch oven and then put the bread, a loaf that's inside the parchment paper in the Dutch oven carefully. Try not to burn yourself because it's going to be super hot. And cover it and let it bake in the Dutch oven. Now the baking time might vary with that because it's not going to be steamed like this one is. So just, you're gonna have to check it and see how long it's gonna take it. I can't really give you instructions on that because the recipe that I tried it with was different as I was developing this recipe. So try it and let me know how it works. I might try it even just on another time and see how that works, and maybe I'll update you guys on the blog and let you know how that turns out. Alright, so I'm waiting right now for the Dutch oven to get preheated, and then we're going to put this loaf pan in it. Alright, so it's the third day. Last night we had a strong storm and our power was flickering, so I decided not to bake the bread last night because I didn't want to end up with half-baked bread in case the power went out. So we are going to bake it today. Last night I put the bread back in the fridge, and this morning I just took it out, and I would have wanted it to sit at room temperature a little bit longer, but I can't do that today because my kids are leaving with their grandparents and I have to give my son some bread. So that's why I'm gonna bake it early, and I took it out of the fridge just a few minutes ago, and I have preheated my oven along with the Dutch oven and the boiling water, and you just heard it beep. So right now it is preheated, so I'm gonna take my Dutch oven out and put the bread in it. I don't put my hands in these oven mitts because they're not insulated enough for me to put my hands in them because the Dutch oven is super hot. The oven is preheated at 450 degrees, and that is just too hot for me to handle this hot Dutch oven. So I just use a double layer like this. They have the Dutch oven lid also in the oven preheating. And now I'm going to remove the plastic wrap off of the bread before I put it in there. Because I don't want plastic in my food. Now I put my hands in the oven mitts. And I'm going to carefully put it in here in the Dutch oven. Cover it. And transfer it back into the oven on the middle rack. And we are going to bake it for 60 minutes while it's covered, and then we are going to remove the lid and bake it for 40 minutes. If you have a lot of excess water after the 60 minutes are done and once you remove your lid, what you can do is remove the loaf pan out of the Dutch oven, drain the water, and then put the loaf pan back in, and keep it uncovered and bake it for 40 minutes for an extra and bake it for an extra 40 minutes. And what that does is allow it to form a crust on the outside. And if you don't want a hard crust, what you can do is just keep it covered and let it bake that way for another 40 minutes. But if you do have a lot of excess water in there, it's just gonna, you have this really soft white crust on top. I don't know if you're gonna like that. What you might want to do is maybe remove the lid for the last 10 minutes maybe and let it bake that way. This way you'll end up with a softer crust and less browned on top. So once the bread is done, I'll get back to you guys and I'll show you how it looks like. Okay, so 60 minutes have passed, and now I'm going to take the lid off and let the bread continue to bake for 40 more minutes. I'm also going to check to see if I have any excess water. No, looks good. So I'm just going to put it back in the oven. And let it bake for 40 more minutes. And this is just going to get rid of any excess moisture that's in the bread so that the bread is not sticky when it comes out. Okay, so the bread is done. I was out in the garden and I left it for a little bit too long. It got a little bit overdone. It looks extra dark on the top, but that's okay. It's not burnt or anything. So I'm just going to take it out of the pan and show you how it looks. I'm wear my oven mitts because it's super hot. And I'm going to take it and flip it on this board right here. I think you guys can see it. It's a little bit extra charred, but that's alright. We're just going to let it cool down completely before we cut into it. This time it's going to turn out a little bit extra crusty, but that's okay. If you want to prevent the extra hard crust from happening, if you accidentally overcooked it like I did, what you can do is put it in a plastic bag while it's warm, not hot, not right after it comes out of the oven, because it can melt the plastic storage bag. So make sure it's on the warm side and not the hot side. And so what this would do is create some humidity in the bag, and that will cause the crust to soften up a little bit. I think that's probably what I'm going to do because, oops, I left it in the oven for too long. That happens. I got distracted out in the garden. I was seeing a lot of vegetables that needed to be harvested. I went out to check on the garden after the storm. So yeah, we're just going to let it cool down and then I'll show you how it looks like on the inside. So the bread is almost completely cool and we can cut it right now. It's slightly warm in the middle only, and I'm ready to cut it because I'm starving. Wow. So let me bring it closer to you guys so that you can see all the bubbles on the inside. See all that? It smells so delicious. It's spongy. So when you first cut it, it's a little sticky, but once you cut it and put it in the fridge, it's going to dry out a little bit. And if you want it to stay moist, it's a tiny bit sticky. It's not really sticky, tiny bit. And I actually prefer that instead of it being super dry. But when you do cut it, it does dry out a little bit and it loses this stickiness to it. But it's moist. It stays moist. And that's the crust. See how stretchy it is and spongy. Super stretchy. Great. I'm going to cut another piece from here. And show you guys. Look at all these bubbles. Can you see this? Makes a great sandwich. And it's delicious.
Can I try, please?
How is it, Gabriel?
Delicious.
What?
Delicious. Only just in case that much like the bread usually makes. This is made sourdough.
And it got fermented a little extra this time. For 3 days. So it's a little more sour.
I thought we were supposed to ferment for 3 days.
No. It's yummy, isn't it? Did you like the crust?
Yeah.
I love it. That's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you learned something new. And let me know how you like the bread after you try it. And if you have any suggestions for me, maybe for improving it, I'll take it. And if you like this video, hit the like button. And if you are new here, hit the subscribe button and the bell to receive notifications of whenever I upload new videos. Thank you guys for watching. And before I leave, I just want to let you know what happened in Lebanon. I have my family there, and yesterday morning they had a huge explosion in Beirut, Lebanon, and it took almost a quarter of Beirut. It took a giant neighborhood in that area, and a lot of people were injured. About 3,000 people are injured so far, as we know of, and 120 are dead, from what I was told. I'm not a reliable news media source. I'm just telling you what my family told me. They are safe. They're far from the explosion. But I just want to ask you guys to please pray for Lebanon and pray for the Lebanese people. Just keep them in your prayers. And the country has been already in a lot of pain before this explosion happened, and now it's even more devastated. And they had a lot of the food most of the food storage for the country is stored in that area where the explosion happened, and all of it was just destroyed, and the people were already starving because of the economy and what was happening there, and the coronavirus and all that stuff. So just keep them in your prayers, and that's all I want to ask. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you again in the next episode.